Hello, everybody. It's with great pleasure that I introduce my friend, Devang Mehta. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Silicon Valley, California. So Devang is a very interesting guy. He was got his MBA at Carnegie Mellon University in the U.S. He's a entrepreneur. He's an investor. Um, Indiana University, master's degree in computer science. Bombay University, bachelor's in engineering. So an entrepreneur, an engineer, and an investor. And it's with great pleasure that I introduce Devang Mehta. Hi, Devang. How are you today?
Thank you, Gary. Great to meet you again. I'm doing just fine. Thanks.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about how was the journey? I mean, how did you go from Bombay to Indiana University?
Yeah, I mean, I did my undergrad at Bombay University. I finished with a bachelor's degree, and a fairly typical career path in those days was to go to the U.S. for a master's degree, in computer science or one of the sciences. And I was lucky enough to get into Indiana University, a great school for computer science and fantastic campus. And the rest, they say, is history.
And okay, so I get that. Why did you go to Carnegie Mellon? They're the first person I know of that's going to Carnegie for a master's degree in business. Why did you make that step?
Well, Tepper, Carnegie Mellon's business program is called Tepper after David Tepper. It's one of the premier MBA programs, and at that point in my career, I had about just shy of a decade worth of experience in software development. And I felt I needed to round my skills with an education from a premier business school. And Carnegie Mellon was on the top of my list because of its highly quantitative and analytical program, which I think is a good theoretical underpinning for management education. And I was thrilled to get in, and it's been the best 2 years of my life from an academic standpoint, at least.
No, that's great. And we're talking about what's happening in the, there's a little bit of an echo. Oh, that's strange. Okay, a little bit of an echo there, but so we're talking about what healthcare trends. We're talking about India. I mean, what's going on today, Devang? I mean, there's and our prayers are out for all the folks in India and all the challenges when we went through it ourselves in the U.S. over the last year. So our hearts are there with you. But what's going on, and what's happening? I know you're doing. You've got Lumos Healthcare Advisory Services as well as Anhale Ventures. So what's going on in the environment today?
Right. So obviously, I mean, it's a very difficult time from a COVID standpoint. Obviously, most of the biggest metro cities are very badly affected. Mumbai, where I live, is getting incrementally better this week. I think people have heeded the need to stay at home and are following the lockdown. And at the same time, the vaccination rate is going along at a decent clip. So you add those two together, it's a perfect recipe for at least incremental recovery and a drop in cases. So that's been good. But I do know that Bangalore and Delhi are really badly hit. Across the country, the scenario is not much better. But outside of metros, the places are less populated, so obviously the growth is less severe. And I think the vaccination rate is likely to grow in the upcoming days and weeks, and that will only help in the recovery process. So cautiously optimistic for for much better numbers to emerge in the upcoming weeks. Now, thankfully, COVID has not dampened the appetite for healthcare innovation in India. So there's a lot of biotech startups emerging and growing despite of COVID, and that is due to the growth in the overall ecosystem in India. It has all the underlying elements required to grow, from specialized courses and institutions teaching biotechnology to students at a world-class level. and also all the elements responsible for the growth of the overall startup ecosystem, which is angels, angel groups, venture capitalists, government support from a taxation standpoint, government fund of funds, uh, an appetite for risk, which is, you know, uh, historically been lacking in Indian people and young Indian engineers and MBAs. Traditionally would at least up to the early 2000s. So just aspire to get a good job, and just build a career out of that. But now, with all the venture funding available, there's a lot of appetite to take risk and build a business, get funded, and move towards exit. And a couple of big transactions in India, and most notably Flipkart, have sort of finished that story. All the way from a campus to exit, and all that it takes in the middle. Those elements are becoming clearer, and the entire ecosystem is maturing as a result of that.
Oh, that's great. And tell us a little bit about Lumos Healthcare Advisory. What kind of things you're working on? I know you work with early stage companies and business development, mentoring. But so how does it work? And what kind of companies are you looking for?
Absolutely. So I do two things. I'm a partner at Anthill Ventures, which is a speed scaling ecosystem, and also a founding member at Lumos, which is the healthcare advisory division of Anthill and ACG, our healthcare partner. So speed scaling to us basically has two pillars: invest and scale. Invest is a traditional VC. We invest at pre-Series A and Series A. I handle the healthcare investing portfolio. And then scaling is done through Lumos, which we run along with HCG, India's biggest oncology chain. So the focus is on oncology and adjacencies, but we look at many different innovative startups that are disrupting the status quo in areas like microbiome research or digital pathology, fertility tech, and increasingly, a bit unfortunately, but mental tech, mental health and tech around ensuring better mental health. And then we're seeing some more business plans that intersect these sciences with traditional Indian medicine like Ayurveda and yoga, and look at health from a more holistic standpoint. So Lumos, to back to your question, advises these companies on entering the Indian market, expanding into India. I think probably the most important advisory element is data and clinical validation.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything today that is AI or ML or any technology literally is predicated on the availability of data to test it on. If the data is not available, go ahead, please.
No, you're exactly right. And then, so if you look at it, so, how has it changed in terms of the companies over the last 5 years I know you're working on areas like immunotherapy, genome sequencing, AI models. I mean, how has it changed in the last 5 years in India?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in healthcare advisory for about 2-3 years, but traditionally India is known to be from a pharma and healthcare standpoint, is known to be a market. I think the early waves of innovation just came through direct-to-consumer models, just being able to subscribe to and deliver medicines cheaply and at a discounted rate, and all the logistics surrounding that. That was a big market, and it's saturated now, I think. There's been waves of innovation in telemedicine and being able to collaborate with doctors more effectively, and areas like transcribing what doctors say into a medical transcription that goes straight to the pharmacy and stuff like that. But deep tech innovation, what you just spoke about, immunotherapy, immuno-oncology, early cancer detection through not just blood, but through breath or sputum, customized oncology treatments. We just think of oncology treatment as chemo or some other nutraceuticals to prevent cancer, but the segment of one, right? To study cancer at a genomic level to address your specific cancer, and then the immune system. There's a lot of research in the immune system, because it has been proven that the immune system is the first line of defense against cancer, and it's something that keeps learning as the cancer grows. And cancers are good at avoiding the immune system. So if you train your immune systems not so as to fool the cancer, then it cannot replicate and it cannot keep growing. So it's a big area of research and something that we are seeing a lot of good business plans in.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you have this company that you advise, and I'm very fascinated by it. Was it IU Rhythm? And it's
Yes.
based on this tradition of Nadi Parikshan, pulse diagnostics. What is that? Because you got patents on it, and how does that work? Can you tell me a little bit about it? It sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's Nadi Parikshan is first of all an Indian word. It's a Sanskrit word for pulse diagnosis, and it's a bit local or parochial to India. I mean, it's not even seen that much in bigger cities and metros. But if you go to smaller towns and villages, there used to be these people who used to literally measure your pulse with finger and measure the different veins. I mean, just observe them the way they were vibrating and being able to tell you your traits and what diseases you are prone to. For example, they could say Gary is prone to acidity or migraine or is prone to inertia or things like that, just based on pulse diagnosis. And it's a pretty ancient Indian science and well respected even today and well followed. So what Ayurveda does is that it helps you measure your pulse through a forefinger that you place on a smartphone. So you place your finger on a smartphone for 30 seconds to a minute, and then through complex digital wave transformations, they measure pulse diagnosis. And then along with a small questionnaire, they essentially make an Ayurvedic profile for you. And you just measure and observe ways in which you deviate from your natural profile, and you're supposed to regulate that behavior through foods and exercise and diets and yoga to go back to your ideal self. That's the whole
Oh, that
science
sounds
behind it.
cool. And how many subscribers do you have? That sounds very interesting, Devang.
Yeah, they're growing pretty rapidly. There's tens of thousands of subscribers, and the plan is to now build a digital e-commerce marketplace around these subscribers. So let's say you need to get certain tablets or access to certain food diets, you can do that through this e-commerce marketplace that is ingrained in the app.
So tell me a little bit about, so you're a partner in Anthill Ventures, and I know you're doing it's really a platform for early stage companies. So tell me a little bit about, I know you're doing mentorship and market access and corporate connection. What kind of companies are you looking for, and what kind of companies have you worked with?
Right. So, speed scaling again is our mantra, is our DNA. We invest and scale, which means we're a true value-added provider of capital to any startup that we engage with. Investing is classical, up to 100, 200K, which is considered part of a larger pre-A round in India. And then up to 1 or 2 million in a Series A round, which is again 5 to 7 million is considered in most geographies in Asia to be a Series A round. So that is classical invest for preferred stock, pretty much like any other VC. The scaling bit is where we differentiate ourselves. We once we are engaged with the company, we provide them depending on where they are. So a lot of the deep techs that we talked about are usually in R&D phase. I mean, usually an exit happens before monetization, because it's just that if a clinical approval becomes imminent, big pharma comes and gobbles you up. Essentially, that's how the firms that we talk to are in R&D phase, where they're looking for a company that we're talking to early sign.
Yeah.
Is a world innovator in early stage cancer detection through sputum. So the incidence of oral and mouth cancer in India is disproportionately high due to the high incidence of tobacco consumption. And they have a kit by which you literally spit into it and send it back to the lab, and it can detect mouth cancer and oral cancer very early, which an early detection we know is literally life.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. You talked about, the Series A round seed stage. What's the difference between the seed stage in India and the seed stage in the US and a Series A? Are there differences, or is it the same now?
I think it's basically that the quantum of money that goes in is different, just because the cost of living is different in the two geographies. So I think up to 500K is considered, a pre-series A round in India. In the US, it would probably, be a friends and family round or something like that.
Yeah, no, I did a $7 million round, and it was a seed round. Actually, I did a
Right, right.
four, and it was a seed round. But here's the thing, Devang. If companies want to go global, right, and you're only doing a $500,000 round, a seed round, how in the world? It's a whole different model when you talk about the global, not just the U.S. but the rest of the world, and it's going to take a lot more money than that. How do you convince Indian investors that to pony up more money without taking more equity in the company, and to really do it from a global perspective than an Indian perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it is arithmetical, right? It's a bit harder to convince investors of higher valuations, but I think money does go a longer way in India because some of the elements, like for example, engineer salaries, right, is still pretty muted compared to Bay Area engineers, for example. So that money does go rents and all the local aspects of the spend. Sure, business expansion into a different country is, then you're talking about apples to apples comparison in terms of marketing spend. But if you want to build a truly world-class biotech company in India, it can easily be done at a fraction of the cost it takes to build a similar company in, let's say, the Bay Area or Cambridge, Massachusetts, or London, Singapore. Most geographies, the engineer salaries and the fixed costs are much higher than India.
No, I understand that. Crossing the chasm, convincing them you're going global to get more money, and they look at it from a different perspective, right?
Correct.
I think that's a challenge in a lot of locations, is how to go through. We look at one as acceleration, two is regional dominance, but then it's going global, which is an entirely set of skill sets, an entirely set of kind of investments that you need to be able to pull it off. Okay, what about another question I wrote down here? What about clinical trials? Is it easier in India to do clinical trials than it is in a lot of places?
Yeah, it's significantly easier because access to data, at least anonymized data, is much more prevalent and easier in India. This just sheer volumes are bigger. I just read somewhere yesterday there's about 400,000 health apps that are collecting data in one way or the other just in India.
400.
400,000 health apps collecting, like, vitamins, did you take them on time, your breath, your pulse, your heart rate, anything like that. So okay, let's just assume a lot of those are even not important, but about 80,000 hospitals, the whole wealth effect, so people are able to afford medicines, government sponsored health programs. And unfortunately, for good or for bad, there's a lot of patients in India, like cancer, right? There's just the sheer wall, or diabetes or anything like that. You'll just find more patients in India, just if the percent of the population is affected in the same way as, let's say, even the EU or the United States, right? So more patients that now have access and the ability to pay for healthcare, they go in and the data is collected, data gets mined, and any startup that's looking to use that data to farm that data to build a new product for early detection or AI ML, has a treasure trove of data. We have literally seen scenarios where a startup makes a decision that will either get funded and buy data to build an algorithm, or we'll partner with someone in India and give equity in lieu of that. It's literally either we get funded or we partner with someone that gives us data. In both cases, we give out equity.
So startups out there, listen, if you need some contacts, Devang may have those. If people think about it, if you need data, and it's all about the trading sense, India's rich in data. So
yeah, extremely rich. Sorry, go ahead. Yes.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to talk to you about some of the other projects. They're fascinating.
Yeah, just to close that thought, so there's extremely rich in data, and it's not, and we just don't give them access to a database and do what you want. We work with these startups for clinical validation. We pair them up with experts in Lumos I'm talking about now. These are also experts. These are luminaries in the field. They have a lot of insights on product roadmap and your approach and things like that. So it's not just data, of course, that's extremely valuable, but it's the whole advisory that goes with it to help you build out a product. So it's at least as valuable, if not more valuable, than raw funding for that point from many startups that would not have any prayer of getting access to that much data and advisory elsewhere in the world.
It's critical. That's where the challenges are with a lot of the startups. They don't have enough. The training sets aren't wide and deep enough, and so they're really the assumptions they make are not necessarily on par. Okay, so let's talk about Gaia Smart Cities. I just had the head of Intel's IoT group, Samir Sharma, who's the general manager worldwide of Intel's IoT and Smart Cities initiative. And so you talk about building state-of-the-art IoT solutions. So what you're doing it for smart cities, smart parking, fleet management, smart water meters. So are you building them for people, or they're actually the company's product are those technologies?
Right. So a small clarification there. Gaia Smart Cities is an investment that I made in a personal capacity, so outside of Intel,
okay,
as an angel investor.
I got it.
But I am an investor. I do help them with many growth initiatives, and I think what you did mention is true. They help companies grow. They help a lot of government institutions get smarter, essentially. So parking, right? A simple thing like parking. There's a parking spot, whether it's smart or dumb. A smart parking spot basically tells you if there's a car or not. If there is a car, it tells you if you're driving by on a mobile app that the spot is unavailable. If there is no car, it tells you in real time it's available. So it just saves the time it takes for you to park a car anywhere. A big problem in metro cities, right? And even tier 2 cities in India. So things like that. Same thing for energy.
I talked to Samir, and one of the things he said it was very interesting. He said, that the traffic lights around the world, on average, only are reprogrammed every 8 years. 8 years. So think about the shifts that take place on a daily basis. New construction, traffic accidents, that kind of thing, but we don't change it. Think how much more energy is used because of, dumb lights, if you will. And so having that in the city between the smart meters and the parking and the fleet and the temperatures in the buildings, imagine how much that could save. And of course, with all the challenges on this world, increase of population from 8 billion to 13 billion at the end of the century, we're going to have to be really a lot smarter. So I was fascinated by that. So it's quite interesting. So what, from your standpoint today, what, Devang, is interesting for you? Like if you could say one thing that you could say, this is like the killer company, the killer technology that we're looking at today, what would that be?
I'm fascinated by the power of biotechnology, increasingly as I get into healthcare. I think, deadly diseases like cancer, right? I think we'll see, I hope and pray that we'll see permanent cures for these diseases in our lifetime. Starting with detection, I think, I hope the time will come where, as part of our annual checkup, we'll get tested for cancer automatically. And that test will happen also based on your DNA. So let's say I'm more prone to a certain kind of cancer, or you are to a different kind. That all would get incorporated in our a regular checkup, so that we'll detect cancer before it begins. We'll be able to preempt it even. And even, God forbid, it does gestate, we'll catch it really early, at which point there'll be a plethora of technologies to contain a tumor and kill it completely. I think that will happen. And that is a function of a lot of the biotech talent and research going on at premier institutes across the globe, including India. All the computing power that is available at our fingertips, we can sift through terabytes of data really quickly. So we can study and we can understand cancer much better today. think in a few years, chemotherapy will might just be scoffed at as something that you do when you don't have anything better to do in terms of curing cancer, for example.
Well, I
You know,
mean, the other thing is with some of the gene splitting, genomic sequencing, being able to actually eliminate it from from the person. It's just those technologies are coming into being in a not too distant future, and it's absolutely fascinating. I did a project out in Palo Alto with some folks from Stanford and Skolkovo School of Management. The project was living to 120, and that was about 6 years ago. Now the new target's 150. And
yes.
as we start to refine these technologies, smart pills, as you said, it's about the data, understanding what's happening, take care of it before it's a problem. It's going to be critically important. We're going to live a lot longer. It's going to be quite
Yes.
interesting to see. And then you talk about some of the technologies like Neuralink and that are out there where we start building singularity. It's going to be incredible. Actually, we're going to have a different kind of world in the not too distant future.
I agree.
We're coming up to the top of the hour, and I just wanted to get your closing thoughts in terms of, the entire healthcare spectrum in India and worldwide, and how we can work better together to be able to solve these problems.
Yeah, I think, to just put in a small plug, but Lumos is built for that purpose, right? There's a lot of interesting tech, and frankly, candidly, a lot of it today comes from outside of India. There's just a certain culture of innovation outside of India from premier biotech schools like Stanford, or people that are trained at Mayo Clinic or Hopkins or premier hospitals in the U.S. that come out and uh, innovate meaningfully, but they fall short in terms of partners that help them validate what they are building. Early on, it's really hard to get that initial validation and get on the path towards true commercialization. So I think if such companies can look at India and look at partners in India to help them in their early growth path, it's a win-win situation for everyone. But the same token, there's a lot of great innovation in India. I think the one thing that's lacking in our biotech story is exits. Frankly, it's a bit opportunistic, but investors always look for exits and are always a bit skeptical because Indian big pharma in India just doesn't function like the Mercks and Pfizer's and the AbbVie's of the world. So you rarely, I don't think there's even a single story, in fact, of someone just buying a biotech startup with a new molecule, for example, for $1 billion. It doesn't happen in India. It happens in big pharma in the US, which is why a lot of innovation there and a lot of venture capital there has also spawned the growth of the startups, hoping for these returns. So I think, the moment exit scenarios become clearer for biotech startups, most of the underlying and early stage elements, which is angels, VCs, Series A investors, incubators, accelerators, and entrepreneurs, people willing to take risks and bets, spend 5-10 years of their life, just waiting to reach the point where they receive FDA approval or clinical validation. That percentage of that population will grow because exits will seem more plausible. So there's a cooperation that can be done from both sides. Startups can come to India for their growth, and likewise, if big pharma players participate in the Indian story meaningfully, at least through lucrative licensing deals, I think the ecosystem here will also grow pretty exponentially.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, how do people reach you, Devang, if they're companies or entrepreneurs out there? What's the best way to reach you?
Sure, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Devang Mehta and Antil will pull me up with the first search result. You can email me at devang@antilventures.com. My first name, Devang, at antilventures.com, one word. So by those two means, please reach out. Happy to discuss your startup, your innovation, or any other ways in which we can collaborate.
No, sounds good. Devang, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule together to be on my show. I want to thank the entire GSD team for making the show GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech possible. And look forward. We'll be back again next Tuesday with the next edition of GSD Presents. Have a great weekend, and our prayers are out to the population of India. Everybody that's there, please understand that we're thinking about you, and let's hope that this comes through quickly and with the least amount of impact. So thank you very much, and look forward. Take care, everybody, and see you again next week. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Gary. Thanks.